Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the Quantum Coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this. Badass Manifester, raise your hand right now if you are ready to live more bravely. I think that this is something that is always a work in progress for all of us, that feeling of being brave and doing hard things and coming out on the other side and feeling stronger and feeling more empowered and more accomplished and less shameful and more in our power and our truth. And today I have a guest who is all about that. Her name is Shoshanna Raven. She is an incredible business coach. She has generated $9 million in revenue in 4 years of being in business. So we all have something to learn from her. She is a shame slayer, founder of the brand Living Brave. And her multimillion-dollar company, it helps women grow from the inside out of what she calls the Chill Rocketship. And it's pretty amazing what we get into in this episode. She drops a huge bomb in the first 10 minutes. Your jaw's gonna drop, and if you know her, you will be so surprised and excited, and it's just a beautiful blessing that she's gifting us, really, truly. In this episode, we get really real and vulnerable as always, and Shoshanna is sharing the truth about shame, fear, sharing how she came out of the closet of the thing that she wanted to hide the most about herself and how it absolutely changed her life and is the catalyst for the business and the work that she does with women. She really gets into her truth about having HSV and how her journey with really letting people know that she has herpes was actually the catalyst for so much expansion in her life, and it helped set other people free as well. If you're someone who filters yourself and you want to be more unfiltered, if you're someone who wants to share more online or doesn't really know where to start, she gets into how she really creates content by really sharing her truth. And what she shares in the first 10 minutes of this episode is such a perfect example of the points that she illustrates and the inspiration that she shares throughout this episode. We get into the difference between shadows and shame. This was one of my favorite parts, and how you can work with the shadows and the shame, and why quantum leaping in life means releasing 80% of the things that are no longer serving you. And she talks about how sharing your joy, your sadness, and shame releases the filter of your emotions to create a life of freedom. It's unbelievable what happens, the impact that we have of getting fucking honest with ourselves, with our community, with the people in our lives, while being in the messy middle to create abundance. It's wild. It's wild. And she shares the powerful life and business strategy of really saying what is alive, true, and real to create transformation and connection through your content, through your work, through your messaging, just in all the places. This episode, I could have gone on and on. I want to have her on for part 2. And before we dive deep into this episode, I just want to give a massive shout out to everyone who got on the QCA savings list. I just want to honor you. I'm so excited to get on these application calls with you. If you got on, that means that you have the opportunity to save up to $1,500 on your tuition to QCA, and basically gives you the opportunity to apply early to the program, get on a call with our team, and see if it is the right fit for you. On those application calls, we answer all of your questions. We share the structure of the program, all the things, and make sure it is the right fit for you and for us and all the way around. So I just want to commend you for saying yes to yourself, to getting on the list and applying early and seeing if this is for you and following that curiosity. And on that note, whenever you feel that feeling of, oh, I'm curious about this, oh, I feel called to this, make sure you follow that. That is your body body's signaling to you, speaking to you. Our body's always speaking to us. Remember that. And if you missed the savings list, but you still feel curious, in a few weeks, I am going to be launching something so exciting. It will be a free experience and it will help you deepen your coaching craft as well. So if you want to tiptoe in before you join the savings list, keep your eyes and ears open because I will be announcing something very, very soon for you. And I really just want to give you a quick preview. I have so many amazing podcast guests coming on in the next like month and a half, like so many lined up. Every guest is truly like soul igniting and fulfilling and gives me so much energy to create for you and like provide this content for you because I do it for you. And I just want to give you a preview of what's to come. So in the near future, I am interviewing Ginger DeClue, who is an incredible detox coach. She is a wealth of knowledge on really amplifying your vessel of your body as a clear channel and how to properly detox yourself and create space in your body energetically, everything to quantum leap in your life. She is all about low tox living. I just want to like be in her brain. I want to know everything that she knows about healthy living. And then I'm interviewing my friend Heather Finley, Dr. Heather Finley. She is a gut health coach and facilitator and practitioner, and she is a wealth of knowledge about how to really heal your gut from the inside out for like maximum health and vitality and energy, because we need energy for manifestation and gut instinct and all of that. And she's incredible. So I want to do like a little health series. I'm going to record a solo about like the low tox ways that I live and give in the world and the things that I obsess about in my life. I don't really share much about that, so I'm excited about that. I have a biohacking amazing man coming on to share about how to biohack yourself. So many cool things. I have Madeline Moon coming on. She is an embodiment teacher all about self-expression and just unleashing your sexual energy, your creative energy, making art in your life through your body, how we have all the answers in our body. I went to her retreat and I'm like, girl, you got to come on the podcast. I have my friend Courtney Taylor coming on. She's a numerologist. You're going to learn all about numerology. I'm literally obsessed with numerology. It is like my newest thing that I am obsessed with. I love it. It is so connective and like just so easy to learn. Like you'll learn so much from this episode. And then I also have another amazing talented soul, Allie Ninfo, coming on. She is an incredible intuitive psychic medium. She is so gifted, and she is going to talk about intuition, helping you unlock your psychic gifts, your power, your intuition, neuroenergetics, subconscious reprogramming. She's a freaking wealth of knowledge. All these people are. So I want you to get excited. Really get excited. The guests that are coming on are all different. This is like my mission right now is I want to bring on people that are just, they have different things to talk about and share their stories on, and but really give you the tools. Like I want to give you the tools and make each one like a masterclass for you. So I think you're going to love this masterclass with Shoshanna Raven. She is amazing, truly amazing. I was like so inspired after this episode, and I know you will be too. So without further ado, enjoy today's episode. So yesterday I was on my mastermind call and Natalie is my coach, Natalie Ellis, and she was like, so I'm going to ask you a question that my friend Jenna Kutcher asks in her book. And that's like the title of her book. And it's called How Are You Really? And she's like, so we're going to go around right now and ask everyone, how are you really? And you literally just asked me that. So I'll just answer the question that I want to ask you. Like in this moment, like right now, how are we really? Right now, I am good and my baby's sick. So it's like very stressful when your child is sick and it's scary and like your mom brain kicks in and you're like, I'm looking for the worst case scenario. I'm like Googling things that I shouldn't be Googling. And I mean, really, he just has a fever and he's clingy and all he wants is me right now. And so it's like beautiful and it's hard at the same time. So that's like where at the space of like where I'm coming from, where I was like, oh, I almost had to cancel this, but we're good. We're here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for opening up that conversation to be like real and vulnerable because life on planet Earth is fucking crazy. Like just to be on this, like we chose, I believe like our souls chose to be on this planet Earth, which is like full of
Yeah.
life, death, and rebirth and transformation. And like the hardest thing, like the only way to grow The only way to get to where we want to go and like go on our path in this hero's journey is through extreme discomfort and like
Yeah.
walking into the unknown and just being in the not knowing. And, that's what my brand is all about, living brave. It's like, it's not
Yeah.
called confident, it's called living brave, which means you're scared shitless. It means
I
that it
mean,
feels right, but you like also feel all the fear and all the doubt and all the resistance. And like the resistance is the green light. And like, what a life, And we're all in
for
this. And
sure.
no one is outside of that. It doesn't matter how successful you are. Like everything that you figured
It's
out,
so
how
true.
much growth, how much personal development you've gone through. It's like here you are, your baby's sick, and you're in the not knowing, and you're in the not
Yeah.
knowing, and you're in the not knowing, and it's uncomfortable. And you've reached a level of growth within yourself where you can still show up and have a conversation because you don't let this one thing take over your whole life. And like
Totally.
for me, that's 99% of what this whole journey is, whether we're talking about business or success. It's like,
Yeah.
can you hold the energy when life's happening? What can you hold more and more duality? Can you just hold more of everything happening all at once?
And I'm so glad that you kind of said that because I really want to dive into that specifically with you, like your brand Living Brave and how to hold it, because I know everything kind of your journey happened fairly quickly. Like you've built a multi-million-dollar business very, very quickly. You're serving thousands and thousands of people. But before we get into that, how are you really? And you're like, I feel like you're like fucking amazing, but like, tell me everything.
You know what, Ashley? Why I asked you, I'm like gonna cry. Why I asked you when this is airing is because I
Yeah.
literally can't answer that question without telling the truth. So,
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my
so
God.
I'm like,
Oh my
so
God. Wait.
so my whole strategy for living, which is basically my strategy of business, is my strategy for living. People are like, I don't know what to post. I'm like, say what's alive and true and real. Like that's the only like what's alive and true and real. That's gonna break the matrix because most people are like filtering themselves and performing. So just say that. Like my clients are like, well, this is what's happening. I'm like, say
Say
that.
that.
And so when people ask me, how are you? I don't really go by the rules. Like there are certain rules about when you say things and when you do things and what's professional and what's normal and when's the right time. And here I am just like, fuck it. I started my business launching a podcast telling the internet I had genital herpes. It's
Right.
like
And I was gonna, that was on my list to bring
so
up
here
too. But
I am.
yeah.
How am I really? Is that it's what, March 22nd, Friday, March 22nd on
Oh my
Sunday.
God. I feel like you're about to drop a bomb.
On Sunday, I took a pregnancy test. And I'm pregnant. So you're like walking down the street and it's so early. And here's to the not knowing, right? It's so early. I actually had an MRI scheduled for the 26th, so in 4 days, to actually do a pelvic scan of my uterus because I have a very abnormal uterus, which is, high risk for pregnancy. So we wanted to see what was going on in there and like what the angles are and really what that means for me for pregnancy. And I was always kind of afraid I couldn't get pregnant. This is my first pregnancy. And so it's scary, right? Because you go online, you go on the internet, like you said, Googling things I shouldn't be Googling. When I was 21, I would say, diagnosed with a septate uterus. The first thing
Oh
I
my
did,
God. I had that. I had that surgery.
you had the surgery. Okay, I haven't had the surgery. So now I'm pregnant with the septate uterus. And that's like a not knowing to the max, right? Because it's like first, it's 4 weeks. People say, like, don't tell anyone for another 2 months. And, you're walking down the street, like, how are you? I'm like, I'm pregnant. It's just like, that's how I am. Like, I don't know. And the truth is, this is vulnerability. Like, this is living. It's like, I
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen, but I know no matter what, I'm going to want to share the truth. Like,
Right.
I'm going to want to be honest. And part of the path of being a mentor or coach that I know probably a lot of people listening are on that path is like I go through things to model them for other people. And it's
Mm.
like being a writer is like you choose this life. No one's safe with a writer, right? It's like everything is raw material. You all of a sudden become
Yeah.
like observer of your own life. Like I live a meaningful and magical life because I decide to. Well, with a mentor and a coach, it's almost like, okay, I'm in the middle of a chapter of my book. And now also I'm going through something so I can create a process. I can create a map for somebody else. And
Mhm.
that's the greatest gift. So I know when I'm real about what I'm going through, and I can really be conscious and intentional about how I move through it in a way that maybe doesn't look like anybody else, that's going to be empowering. That's going to be inspiring for someone else. And so I can't imagine like not sharing no matter what happens, right? Because I'm going to want to be honest about that journey. I'm going to want to be held
Wait, can we
accountable for that.
hold the phone? Oh my God, I feel so honored right now that you're sharing that with me and with us. And like, whoa,
I can't not. I
you
really
are
cannot.
pregnant.
What am I supposed to say when you say
You're fucking pregnant.
oh my gosh, you had a septate uterus and you did have the surgery. Okay.
Yeah. So, and do, did you get I know you said you were going for a test and you're probably not going to have that MRI now.
Not,
Great. So, and you probably won't have a saline sonogram. Have you done a saline sonogram before?
no.
Okay. A saline sonogram is basically where they put saline into your uterus to see the shape of the uterus so they can kind of see how big the septum is. So, um, a lot of women, and I know you know this, they conceive and they deliver beautiful babies with a septate uterus. So it's
Mhm.
yeah, I mean,
We just don't talk about women's health enough.
we don't, we
Jeez,
really don't.
there's
And
so much
like,
shame.
you know,
I
I went through IVF, right? Do you know that?
don't know that.
Yeah, yeah, we tried for 3 years. And um, I mean, I think it's so beautiful for you to share this because I know there's people listening right now that are like, I have that, and
Mhm.
I conceived with that, and I had my baby, and or I miscarried, or right, whatever they're here. I know there's people listening right now that have had very similar experiences, and I think it's good to talk about always.
It's just like that's
I'm so excited for you.
you're
I know it's early, and also I'm still so excited for you.
yeah. And I think that's really what, for me, the decision to just be open about it is. It's like I don't limit my joy or,
Yeah.
my expression because I'm afraid of being disappointed or afraid of being let down or afraid of being sad. It's like when I'm sad and we can connect about that. When I'm happy and we can connect about that. And
Keep
I
it
think
real,
yeah,
100.
yeah. And, when we're not sharing something, like for me, my whole brand, Living Brave, is about like what really happens when you allow yourself to like free your voice, to actually get all of those things that you're hiding in the darkness, like, that's a little too much, or I don't really know if that's good enough, or this thing, oh, maybe this is like a little taboo. Oh, I can't really share this part of my past. And it's like it takes actually so much energy unconsciously to hold
Hold
all
it.
of that back that when I started just being open and honest, like this is who I am and this is my journey and this is my story and like choosing how I approach certain things in my life, it was like all of this energy was freed. It's like, oh my God,
Mm,
I'm just like overflowing with ideas and creativity and I'm connecting because the connection, like true connection, that's the best feeling in the world. And, it's the fear or the desire, like which one is bigger? A lot of times our fear of rejection, our fear of getting it wrong, our fear of being disappointed, that outweighs the fear of connection and the fear of like the and the desire for the connection, the desire for that vulnerability high that you get. Because a lot of people have never tasted that before. So it takes
yeah,
just like one moment of being super real or uncovering something that you've never shared before, maybe approaching a situation in a different way and sharing that with someone. It's like, holy shit, that felt so good. And then even though maybe you're still scared and still kind of like wobbly, you can
sure.
go for it because your desire for that connection and for that expression.
Yeah, the expression is the art. And that's kind of what I'm learning and working with different teachers of like how to make art out of those things that we want to hide or those triggers that show up or really like getting curious about how to like recreate that in my life in a way that's like of service and will help others and will help me, in the process of that. So I'm like, so with you, and I know that you started your brand from telling the truth, from like taking something that I would imagine you felt shame around, right? Like it was herpes, right?
Mhm.
And what was your experience like before you released that? Like,
Mhm.
how did you hold that in your body and in your life? And then and then you released it. And like you said, your whole fucking world changed, your whole life changed. And now you're changing so like because of that ripple of how now you're changing so many lives, it really does blow my mind. And I think it's such
Mhm.
gold for everyone listening.
Well, one of my teachers, his name is Jordan Smiley. He's my yoga teacher here in Denver. He says, your pain knows how to release you. Like you don't have to try so
Mm.
hard to let go. Like your pain and knows how to release you. You just need to try something different. Like what if you
Wow.
just take a deep breath? What if you just like unclench? And so for me, I was maybe 25. I was traveling the world. I had quit my job in 2015. I was working at KPMG, this big four. Like I lasted a year. I was so out of place.
So
And
relate to
cliche
that.
moment, I was like, oh, I would rather be happy and poor for the rest of my life, than wake up in this office in 10 years. That's scarier to me having to reconcile that I didn't go out there and see. Like, I don't know how I'm going to change the world, but I want to go see it and find out. I wrote that in my first blog. It was like so young and so real and so true. Cliches are cliches for a
I
reason,
love the way you write, by the way. Love the
Oh,
way you write.
thank you so much. And
Yeah.
so it's 2017. I'm in Bhaktapur, Nepal. I'm working at this kid center for untouchable caste children, and this is like, the children that live in the slums. They're collecting garbage and trash all day, giving that in exchange to the slumlord for accommodation and food. It's like I'm so out of my element. I'm writing for Investopedia on the side. I'm sleeping at this $5 a night French guest house at this like super thin mattress. I'm here for two. I'm so like emotionally exposed. And I get hit with a 105 fever. I have nerve pain down my legs, maybe 104 fever, nerve pain down my legs. It's like summer in Nepal, and I'm like under a ton of blankets. I go get $1 antibiotics at the kiosk down the street. I'm like, it's probably just, something I picked up traveling. Finally, the guest house owner is like, you need to go to the doctor. We get to the doctor. Of course, the doctor won't talk to me. He's talking to the guest house owner, this other man, and I'm trying to tell him what's happening. He's like, you have typhoid. I'm like, no, I have the typhoid shot. He's like, well, what do you think it is? I'm like, this isn't how it works. You don't, and I'm trying to tell him like some of my women's health stuff, like there's like water coming out of my vagina. And I don't know why. And he just looks at me and he says, women sometimes just get stressed. And I like screeched. I was like, so like, oh, I was just like, what is wrong? And I got back to the guest house. Immediately, I just took out my phone. I like knew in my bones this deep fear that I had, this like stigmatized, highly stigmatized STI. Look up herpes. It's like the fever comes in 5 days, then the sores come. Like, I'm just like, oh my God. And I see some lesions and I'm like, oh fuck. I'm about to trek the Annapurna circuit. It's going to be like the pinnacle of these 2 years of solo travel. I feel so confident. I'm this yogi. On the external, I've
Yeah.
got it all figured out. And it's like underneath that conditional confidence bubble, just in 1 second, this identity, this like, I am more than my mind and my body, like inhale, inhale the good shit, exhale the bullshit, yogi, traveler. It was like, you're the scum of the earth. Like it was literally like you had it going well. I was looking at photos of myself that day, seeing someone else. It was like me before and me after. It was a total identity, like ego death. Just like it finally, I saw all of this shit that exists within myself of what I really thought about myself. Because something like HSV, something like trauma is anything that we are holding on to from the past that we still think happened to us, right? This moment where everything shifts and anything we can have post-traumatic growth from, anything we can say happened for us. And so that was the later journey I went on of this traumatic experience of HSV was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. That's how we heal, right? Our past keeps getting better. As Ben Hardy says, our past keeps getting better and our future keeps getting bigger because we keep rewriting our past. But in that moment, I was like, no one's gonna love me. I had it going for me. I obviously attracted this. This is like spirituality gone wrong, right? Like I attracted
Right.
this. And I booked a ticket home. I felt like such a victim. I was crying all the time. And I moved to Denver. I fell into these patterns that were very similar to where I was in New York City before I, took my journey to India and became like sober and realized like I found spirituality. I realized I'm more than my mind, my body.
Mm.
But I'm back in the same place I was in New York City. I'm going out 6 days a week. I am running from myself. And so one night I'm like crying myself to sleep after this house party, and I just hear this familiar voice that we all sometimes know. And it's like, you can continue to do this. You can continue to seek outside of yourself, or
Mm,
you know exactly what to do. You can become your own best friend. And this is what a quantum leap is. So, a
sure.
quantum leap isn't just in business. A quantum leap is when you have a moment and you decide you're going to release 80% of the things, the thoughts, the beliefs, the habits, the actions, the people, the places, like release 80%. And so the next day, I stopped inputting all of these substances into my body. I had no boundaries. So, the people I was hanging out with, I was like, nope, my actions, my thoughts. I signed up for a half marathon. I took a solo road trip across the country by myself. I learned how to pitch a
Wow.
tent. I was like working, I like showed up in the
Oh,
forest.
learn how to pretend.
I volunteered at this. I'm like, oh, Beloved Festival, that sounds fun. I think it's like a yoga festival. Ends up being like this world music festival in the middle of the forest. It's like everybody's naked. I show up. I don't know anyone, no cell service, no Wi-Fi for 7 days. I'm just like coming home to myself. And in that time, I had this feeling like I've got trauma, I've got shame connected to my HSV story, to who I am as a woman. It's actually existed before HSV.
Hmm.
Deep sense of I'm not good enough and I want to heal that for myself. And I think I'm going to heal that. It was this intuition, like through vulnerability,
Mm,
through the act of being real and honest about my journey. And so as I'm traveling, I start to just shift the way I'm approaching the HSV story because something started to happen in the beginning of my journey when I would tell people the snot sob story about
yeah,
HSV is that about 1 in 4 people would stop me at the end. They'd be like, yeah, me too. I've had it for 15 years, 1 in 2 would be like, oh my God, well, let me tell you about this thing about me. And
sure.
I started to think, okay, so everybody's got this, but not just an STI. 1 in 2 women will have an STI before age 25. Um, but everybody's walking around feeling like they have something to hide. And like, what if
Right.
I shifted? What if I just tried something different? And so someone would be like, hey, do you want a sip of my water? And I'd be like, sure, I have herpes, but you won't get it. And people would just start to look at me like, who is this girl? And I'd be like, I'm actually really passionate about this because I used to think like my life was fucking over, but this is actually so normal. And I'm like, I really want to like do something with this. People would be like, you're a fucking badass. Like it was this crazy experience. And it's the first time I really learned energetics in an embodied way where I was like, oh, my energy about something dictates how the world should listen
Yes.
to me about it.
So
So
true.
I actually decided through this, I swear to God, people were walking up to me. I was so joyful. And this is like real wealth. For me, the rarest commodity on planet Earth is someone who loves and accepts themselves. And so people were walking up to me like, do I know you? Do you live in Hawaii? Like, I swear I know you. And I'm like, I remember one of my spiritual teachers, Muji, who would be like, when people are walking up to you saying, do I know you? You look familiar. It's because they're recognizing a piece of themselves in you. Like, it's
Mm,
a very good sign. And so this was happening to me around the time I decided to do the Vulnerability Project, which is the first episode of my podcast, Living Brave, which started my business, which was a complete accident. I was like, oh my God, if I could do what I love full time, it just felt crazy. I was side hustling. I had 7 side hustles. And I didn't know this was going to be episode 1, but I was like, well, in order to share my story, so maybe I'm going to get like on the Moth, this storytelling platform. I literally spam them like crazy. Maybe I'm going to get on Women's Health Magazine. I spam them like crazy too. I try to get my story everywhere. But before that, I was like, I'm going to tell the people that I'm most afraid to tell because that's going to train me. Like,
yeah.
I'm going to meet my greatest fears. It was like this intuition that that's what it's going to take. And so I decided to tell all of the guys that I had a crush on, who I'd gone on a date with in the past 2 years, about my highly stigmatized STI. If I could meet them in person, better. Some of them phone conversations. And I was like, all right, I'm practicing being vulnerable. And there's this thing about my story and my journey that I feel really passionate about. And I'm like practicing because I want to do something with this. My ex-partner, who I was with for 3 years, great relationship. We reconnected. We had gone on like 2 dates 6 months ago. He was like, oh my God, you're such a badass. Can I help you with your website? There's totally something here. We
Wow.
reconnected. We started dating. People are trying to make out with me while I told them about HSV. I'm like, it
Stop.
literally cracked my fucking world. It was like, oh, it's me. like I'm the one undervaluing myself. I'm the one who think these people only see me as this girl. Maybe they dated this like object of they want to be my friend. I was like, I had
I
been
have
dis
the chills.
I'd been dishonest with one person. This was the hardest thing. Like we had been intimate and I didn't tell him. I didn't
Mm.
tell him the first time and I was too scared. And oh my God, I had to drive over to his house in Boulder. I'm like blasting Resilient by Rising Appalachia. I like remember exactly what I'm wearing, this turtle necklace and this green tank top. And I get to his house and it's like I'd been trying to coordinate this forever. And he's like, do you need to like go outside? Do you need to sit down? I literally probably white. My hands are on my head. I'm just like, I turn around. I'm like, no, we're gonna sit on the couch right now. I think he's gonna be angry, mad. Sit down and I tell him, listen, I was dishonest with you and I didn't tell you I have this highly stigmatized STI. I'm not telling you because you have it. You know, the chances are like so low. And that's why most people aren't honest about it. But this is something I want to go public with. And I just feel like I'm taking myself on this vulnerability project. And he looks at me with like the biggest, like loving smile. And he's like, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And here's this thing that I'm sorry I didn't tell you. And yeah, I'm sorry about how this thing ended and went. I'm like, what the fuck?
Whoa.
And he gives me a huge hug and he's like, I love you. And he texts me, I love you so much. Let me know how I can support you. You're such a badass. I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? I didn't want it to end. I was like, being real is like the best feeling on planet Earth. And
It's like
so
a high.
it's such a high. After that is when I launched a podcast and I shared my story and people were reaching out, whether it was, you know, HSV or another thing that they were hiding or shameful about. And just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And around that time, I led my first retreat. I had made a few $1,000s. This is 2019, okay? And we're
Oh my
like
God.
almost at this 8 figures in the business, like career to date. You know, this is literally 2019, the end of 2019, leading my first retreat. I'm like, oh my God, I can like make a few $1,000s like leading a yoga retreat. This is so fun. Like, this is epic. I get an email from my freelance writing job, my biggest one at the time, which was like, you know, a few $1,000s a month just supporting my lifestyle. And it's like, we no longer need you after like 4 years, you know, freelance life. And I'm like, oh my God, I no longer work for Investopedia. And this was, you know, the podcast was up and running. I didn't sell anything for 6 months of the podcast. And I had this like deep, dark secret. This was another deep, dark secret. I wanted to be a coach. I had been a coach my whole life, you know? And from there was when I really decided to continue the conversation with people where they're like, I really need this. This podcast is changing my life. Oh my gosh, you're so brave. And I'd be like, I did the scary thing, the imposter thing of saying, really? What was supportive? And they're like, the way you talk about this, this, and this. I'm like, well, if you're interested in like going on that journey with me, I do this for a living. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, let's jump on a call. And then I start doing it for a living. So that's my story.
Oh my God. Wow, 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 wow. That is like just so fucking inspiring and so really liberating to hear your story. I think for so many, like for me, just listening was like, whoa, okay. That is, it really is the gateway, telling the truth, sharing your heart, even in the scariest moments, and then being met by your previous partners and just the people that you were sharing with in a completely different way than you even probably anticipated is just like
Yeah.
such a confirmation. I don't know if everyone gets that confirmation. Like they might be sharing something scary with someone and they might not be met that same way, but the medicine is in like the sharing of it. It's not necessarily how you're met. But for you, I feel like it was a key piece of your journey
Yeah.
to keep going.
And the truth is that when you get, we need each other. Like, I think this whole we should just be confident and validate ourselves all the time. You know, my dad always says, when you forget who you are, like call someone who loves you, you know, so they remind you of who you are. So, connection is a way to heal for sure.
Yeah.
And I have also had moments where maybe I wasn't met in the way I really wanted to. My fiance, you know, it's like when I told him, he wasn't like, "Oh, I love you no matter what." Like, of course, at the time we had only known each other for like 3 weeks. He's like, "Wow, okay, that is a little scary to me." You know, was that easy for me? This guy I really, really, really liked to be in the not
Yeah.
knowing. where he was like, let me just be with that. And me just being like, okay, and like that's scary. That's really scary for sure. It wasn't the some guys I dated who were like, I saw your profile already and it's totally cool with me and I think
Right.
you're badass, like on the first date, and I'm like, it wasn't like that. And I think it really is our own anchor. When someone says something about you online, maybe says you're a disgusting snake oil salesman, which is something that one of my college besties told me when I first started my business. If I think that maybe I might be kind of gross for selling and that, I kind of have some stuff with money, when someone says that to me, it's going to really hurt.
Mm.
Okay, when someone says what you're doing, the work is really harmful, and I feel like maybe I shouldn't really be doing the work that I'm doing, and maybe I'm harming people, and maybe I should be responsible for everyone's results, and maybe I should have a certification for this. It's gonna hurt. But when my friend said that, when my friend said that, I just took a deep breath and I felt this like filter come off my voice that I didn't even know was there. It was unconscious. It was like, oh, I was unconsciously like filtering myself because I was afraid. We're only limited by what we're unwilling to feel. Sometimes we don't even know those unconscious things. Like, oh, I was afraid that someone I love would get my message backwards. I wasn't wanting to be too salesy. I was one of the good ones who didn't care about money, just so
Right.
no one would get me wrong. And then someone got it wrong.
Wrong.
Someone said I was being what I'm doing is harmful and I'm a disgusting snake oil salesman. Who do I think I am? And in that moment, I got to really sit with myself. I always say, I hope your greatest fears come into fruition so you find out who you are in the process. I got to sit with myself and say, who do I think I am? Am I a disgusting snake oil salesman?
Mm.
Is the work I do harmful? I was like, you know what? Here's exactly what I do. I have got pages of testimonials. I'm really proud of it. And it was like,
Fortifying.
it was freedom. And so you're not always going to get the best response, especially through vulnerability as a strategy. It's for you. And so I think the key here is that I wasn't going about this journey to get a response from people to make myself feel better. I was going on this journey because it was something I wanted to do for myself to free myself from secrets, to free myself from shame. Shame is anything in the darkness that holds power over us. It amplifies in the darkness, something that we're hiding that we think makes us less worthy or less than. We all have shame. It's a feeling that you're never doing enough, that you're never good enough, that if only they found out. This feeling like, oh no, you're the successful business leader. You can't be crying. You can't forget that you're the creator of reality sometimes. You can get pissed off and snap sometimes and then dance around your kitchen the next moment. Like that's also feminine embodiment, is that you're going to feel a million things
Sure.
a day and you're a human, and so in that, I think it was really my energy towards it that did allow for such open, curious conversations, right? In the vulnerability project, because it was such a pure space.
Mm.
Um, but it is not always met like that. And part of it is you have to, in order to be vulnerable, ask yourself, especially for large scale vulnerability, are you willing to share this regardless of the response that you get back?
Ooh.
If not, then it's not a self-respecting choice for you.
Mm. That's so powerful. I feel like um, that for me personally has been one of my greatest gifts in being okay to have conversations and share something with someone along my journey that I didn't receive, you know, in the way that I thought it would go or the way that I would have liked. And being okay with that too, right? Like being okay with sitting with, okay, like this, it's not rejection, but it kind of feels like rejection in a way in this moment, and just like being okay with that too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, the range. It's all about the range.
Rejection therapy. Have you heard of
Oh,
rejection therapy?
no, but I need to know
It's
about it.
actually, this was like years ago. I want to say it's like in 2018, I downloaded this app. I don't know if it still exists, but it was called Dare Me and it was rejection therapy.
Wow.
And, there are so many examples of like, I've heard like comedians, many of like the top comedians have this one night in their career that's like the defining night where they stand up on stage and they fucking bomb it. Like they
Mhm.
bomb it and they're in that moment, the worst thing, they're still fucking alive. And it like
Yeah.
that's the rest of their career, you know? And so these kinds of things, I remember even my partner was telling me a story of meeting this guy with like a flicker in his eye, and he just had all this like passion, energy. And he's like, dude, like, what's your secret? He's like, man, I went to this event, and like part of the event was you stand on stage and people say like the rudest shit to you for like 30 minutes. And it literally like, you just surrender. You just like surrender into it. And honestly, I feel like having a business is the greatest
Oh
rejection
yeah.
therapy. Again, we're only limited by what we're unwilling to feel. And so when you're able to like feel it and really look at like it's such healing work, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, what are you making this mean? Like
Mhm.
what are we not willing to feel? And if you can integrate those parts of yourself and stop making everything mean something about you, often because of shame, it means you're not enough. People don't like you. They're choosing someone else. You're never going to be good enough. It feeds all of that. And when you can just be like, oh, this isn't a problem, right? Like memberships are the biggest freaking rejection therapy. You know, I have like multiple seven-figure clients who are like, every time someone cancels my fucking membership, I'm like, give you so much value.
It
You
hurts.
know, and I'm like, I know. And it literally does not matter, but you're a woman and you're a woman in business, which means you're emotional as fuck. And you probably are making this mean something. It's reminding you of all those other times you got rejected and not chosen. And it's these big stories around, well, if they're canceling this and then what's going to happen, then you're doomsday thinking. And so this is the greatest
Sure.
tool for you. Like, oh, I'm so glad I started a membership because it's truly like I felt the same thing, the tinge. Every single time I'd be like, what? 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 But then you realize, wow, someone could say there's absolutely no value in this 400 trainings every single day of
Yeah.
your greatest breakthroughs, you know, and then someone else could be like, holy fuck, I just hit a gold mine and I would like to upgrade your highest level thing and pay you in full right now. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, if I'm making that mean something, I can also make this mean something.
Good. That's so fucking good. Especially the person right now listening who feels like no one's signing up for their membership, or that one person signed up and they're like, I hope that I deliver to them, even though there's like 400 fucking trainings in there. Yeah. So I'm just a quick question here. So for someone listening who's like, I really want to like uncover like where I am, shaming myself and unconsciously, like not aware of it. What is your tool to them to help them really like excavate that within themselves if they really want to go there?
Mm, yeah. One thing is we reveal ourselves like easily. We do.
Mm.
Like
Sure.
like our scars and our shadows are good at hiding from us, but if we just start to pay attention to where we are activated and triggered, where
Mhm.
we resist, where there's an incongruency between who we want to be and who we say we are and who we are behind the scenes, and we just like, look at those things, you know, sometimes it can look like, oh no, that's definitely not me. I would never do that. That, well, that's like shadow work. It's like,
Sure.
that's an indication you have a shadow. Like that's an indication. I've had that too. Like I felt that. I remember this was years ago. And I felt this towards another woman online. I was I just don't like the whole like self-made thing. Like no one is self-made and she just like thinks she's so great. And I remember my partner was like, okay, something's happening here. And I was like, what do you mean? Yes, I know. He's like, you're not like this. So there's something there. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I have this like shadow around like, and again, shame, shadows, similar things. But I have this like I think shadows are good at hiding from us. Shame is like a feeling of, I don't want them to find out. But the shadow is like, oh,
That's really good. Wait, say that one more time. Shame is no, shadows are good at hiding from us.
shadows are very good at hiding from you. They'll be like, I'm bored. I'm not really good at sticking with one thing for a while. I don't
Mhm.
know. I'm kind of confused. Like it's just the resistance, you know, like the place you need to
Yeah.
go, the place you have resistance. And
Yeah.
those things are really good at hiding from you. They tell you you're confused. Like anything that prevents you from brave action. Vulnerability is one of those brave action items, but there are so
Okay.
many ways we like block. We get tired, we get confused, we get
I don't
overwhelmed.
know. I don't know what I
Yeah,
want.
this whole thing. And then also we get like activated and triggered because when something's not for you, you're usually just like, oh, that's not really for me.
Yeah.
Right. But when there's no curiosity and there's just it's usually like a part of yourself you're oppressing or you're ashamed of or you're desiring. And so that's how you can find your shadows. But shame, it's like, Shame is the I don't want them to find out because there's a difference between privacy and secrecy. Privacy is something that I keep close to myself, but in an empowering way. I'm not like, it's the energy behind it. It's not like I'm afraid if you'll find out and then what that would mean about me and then that would destroy me and ruin me. It's like we have shame around having a low month in business. If only they found out, or taking a break. Oh my God, why did I do that? It's still like beating yourself up, you know?
Yeah.
But I said, Ben Hardy is a great teacher. Trauma is anything from your past that you still think happened to you. Often traumatic events we have shame around, but often what we do when we go in post-traumatic growth is like, how in any way did this happen for me? And how can I bring dignity? Healing is bringing dignity, to myself, to an experience in the past where there wasn't any. And I think the shame and the shadow, and this is all of the like underbelly of most mainstream manifestation, right? It's like, this is
Totally.
like, it's so like surface level, like mere affirmation, I'm fucking amazing. And then underneath, there's this whole world of like your human experience. And I find some of the most joyful, loving, happy people. Like sometimes people meet me and they're like, why the fuck are you so happy? Why are you dancing? Why are you having so much fun? It's like, but the brand, like at the core of the brand is like shame slaying, it's like
Right.
shit. And so it's like, it helps you kind of, I don't know, not take things so seriously. Cause like, I've got nothing to hide. Like, let's let it all hang out. Here we are.
There's a lyric in a song, you might know it. I'll send it to you after. But it's like, what's the point in having so much light if we don't bring it to the night?
Mm,
And it's just, it's what you're saying. It's like we have our lightness and our joy and our 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 vibrancy and our, attractiveness. And we have that because we do the fucking deep
yeah.
stain slaying, dragon slaying work
It's
for
like,
ourselves and for humanity. Like,
yes. And it's what I'm not um prescribing it like go sit in the shit forever, like
oh,
people get really stuck in the healing work and the
oh
work
yeah,
and it's fucking serious and you're like, oh my God, just like play, have fun. It's
yeah.
almost it's not a ruminating in the past and in the feeling. It's honestly using a process of sharing, a vulnerability, of moving it, of feeling it, so that it's not taking energy and life from us. People are like, oh, I don't really want to give that power, right? But in keeping it in the darkness, in just thinking about it as you go to bed at night or being afraid that people find out, it's like it has so much power. And so the process is not to give it power and to focus on the dark and to focus on the shadow. It's honestly so that you can integrate more and more of yourself and become a lighter and lighter human being. And then be so happy and joyful. And like for me, I always talk about the war on happy people. I'm like, you don't need a reason to be
I know.
happy. You don't need a reason to like dance. We freaking filter each other so much. It's like, oh, be a self-made millionaire. Okay. Like, yes, be in a good relationship. Okay. But like, wait, at some point, it's too much. At some point, like,
Yeah.
when's enough? And then people reach a threshold and we're like, nope, too happy, too joyful. Come back down to earth.
Annie, too pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one's cute. This is a little too much. And that's the thing I'm like, if I'm gonna feel all the fucking feels, I am also gonna allow myself to feel wildly ecstatic and joyful and blissful and share that in the world because that also gets to be authentic and true. And I think sometimes we're so disconnected from the reality of our human, like the feeling of being alive, which is like all of it. Like when we cut off, when we cut off one feeling, we cut off all of them. That seeing people and that much joy and freedom, it feels so disconnected from most people's experience of life that they actually feel like it's not authentic. Like you must be performing. That must not be real.
Mhm.
Right? And that's like how we see that people are so disconnected from their humanity. So coming back to humanity is also coming back to like the bliss and the joy and the fuck it, let's have fun. Like we're all just kids in human bodies. And also like, yeah, and we all have these deeply complex and often like also really simple. It's infuriating and funny, like
I know.
human stories that are all
So
so
fucking
similar.
simple. Oh my God. I was having a breakthrough around that date, like always, but the other day it just came through like, wow, this is so simple. Like this is also simple, but also so
It's
complex.
infuriating and so funny, depending on what mood you're in, when you're
Yes,
like
exactly.
I feel like the breakthrough with all of my clients is always like, wait, Shosh, like, I just be her now. I'm like, yes, like be here now, be her now. It's like, yeah, you
Yeah.
really just you decide like how this is gonna go. Like
Yeah.
you be, I was talking about the chill rocketship. Like life is happening and you ask yourself in that moment of awareness, you're like, wait, what if it's me? What if I have the power to shift this? What if I can allow myself to feel good? What if I want romance in my life, I'm going to romanticize my life. What if I want a magical life? I'm going to decide to be the magic. Oh, what if I want more? I just am grateful for what's here. And then I lean in with less thought, more action. And it's like again and again and again and again and again and again and again. It's like, okay, action without proof, trust and surrender, like being one of the crazy ones. Ah,
When you messaged me, we were talking about my $1 million launch. So like the simplicity in that for me, my breakthrough was there's nothing outside of myself that I'm needing right now to make this happen. And I was in this belief that like I was waiting for an opportunity to be seen or an opportunity to be on someone's podcast or an opportunity to be on stage or whatever my opportunity that I thought I was missing was in my mind. And in a breathwork session, it was just like, you're waiting for something outside of you, and it is you. You are the magic. You are this. Like it is you that you're waiting for. And it was just that line in my head, that voice, that message was just like it broke the glass ceiling. Like that was it.
yeah.
And then the opportunities came.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's what happened. Like
Yeah.
it is
And
the simplest thing.
it's so good. It's like we're all waiting to meet the moment. We're waiting to prove that we're capable, that we're worthy, that we're deserving. We're just waiting. It's like the feeling of loss or overwhelm is just a disconnect from the fact that I am who I choose to be right now in this moment. And in this moment is the moment that creates change. And like that's it. Like there's no place to be lost or confused. Like I am in this moment now.
You're on the leading edge of creation.
Yeah, this is where we are. And it's like, some people don't want to hear that. Like, I just literally decided to stop waiting and that it was possible now and just to channel like my brilliance and like where I'm thriving, what's already working rather than trying to fix myself, right? There's so much, especially in the business world around like, make this better. You're doing this wrong. Fix, fix, fix. And you're like, I think my messaging needs to be better, right? Fixing, fixing, fixing rather than the art of thriving and like really in energetics. It's like, what's working. So when I say like feminine business, it's really like taking the natural feminine qualities and really like channeling that into strategy. So it's like, okay, you're playful, you're multi-passionate, you're multi-dimensional, you are like flirty, you are seasonal. Like, how do we put this into a strategy? You're emotional, you're desire-led. Like, how do we actually channel that rather than you trying to be something that you're not and fit yourself into a one sentence little bio over here and try to go through this perfectly checklisted, curated thing? Like, how do we have this make sense for you versus try to fix you? How do we amplify what's there because you're already ready, it's already working? And let's double down on that. And I think it's really odd, for someone to be like,
Yeah.
you're supposed to tell me what I'm doing wrong. And it's like, no, here are the opportunities for growth. But
Back
we're
to the simplicity, right? Like the simplicity of like really building momentum based on your essence, based
Mhm.
on the qualities that you have that you said are already really working for you, and like really doubling down on that, going all in on that. Because it's like everyone's looking one way and they're missing the fucking gold.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, like, if you could give, because all of this is so potent, and I know everyone's like, oh, yes, okay, it's all clicking. If you had like a magical power,
Mhm.
what would you say would be like the gift that you would want to give everyone that is trying to build their business right now? Like if you could grant them
Yeah.
this thing, what would it be?
Oh, goodness. So less thought, more action comes to mind first of like you're
Yeah.
really just stop over functioning and over analyzing. Now working with so many people, especially thinking about like my first ever time I worked in business because I was doing life and empowerment coaching beforehand. And when I first started working in business, I'm I realized that like I was teaching the same content and the same material, but people are getting different results. And the people who were like, oh my God, yes, I'm going to run with it.
Yeah.
Like, we just were taking action. They were getting results. And the ones who were like, okay, I'm really integrating. I want to make sure I get it, which is great. But like, I don't really know. Should like module one come before module three? And I'm like, you're the artist, like, I don't know. Like, just put it out there. And they would stall themselves. So while everyone is on their own timeline, I think like less thought, more action. And this ability to really, like, what I really hope and pray for is that we're able to gift ourselves the ability to enjoy our lives and
Yeah.
really look at our business and every relationship as something that makes our life better. Like, for me, say today, I'm feeling a little like, oh, like I don't know how I'm feeling in my body. Uh,
Yeah.
oh, maybe my biorhythm, I'm at like a lower point. Maybe I'm not like in the mood to just be like, dance this morning, but I get excited about showing up to my calls because I'm really in my purpose. And I
Yeah.
tell myself like, oh, this podcast, my call after this, it's gonna be good for me. Like it reminds me of who I am. I should
Yes.
write because the writing like helps me express myself and helps me like unearth the magic and the meaning in this moment. And the act of sharing is good for me, and the act of expressing is good for me. And just like any great relationship, my business is something that holds me after a long day. It's like something that reminds me of who I am. And so I would gift everyone the opportunity to really see their life as a piece of artwork or a living prayer, like that they are to actually be aware of and able to access the infinite in every moment. And one of my favorite kind of frequencies to tap into in the infinite in every moment, because everything is existing at once. We can tap into sadness right now. We can tap into fear. We can tap into the fact that there are a million people at our fingertips. We can tap into the one person who's ghosted us. Like we can tap into everything. One of my favorite feelings is joy. And
Mm.
like that to be able to like the meaning and the joy for everyone to really be able to see the impact of their actions well past how many people like their post today, like, and just see that there's always a ripple effect and that everything you put into life does come back tenfold. I know this about whether it's a master class or a conversation you're having in your DMs, like it all comes back tenfold. It's so crazy. I just hired one of my clients from like 4 years who has been with me through all the ups and downs, ebbs and flows, has had every reason with quantum crumbles to like back away, has always been in integrity with her agreements, has always been shouting my name from the rooftops, and has always been such a joy. And I'm like, hired her to be like my support coach. It's such a beautiful opportunity for her, but it's not an accident. It's like, no, everything you did over the
She
past
showed
4
up for it.
and everything else that's coming to her. It's like sometimes we forget that our impact of our words, thoughts, actions, especially our actions and the space that comes from service and love, that comes back tenfold. And if we can enjoy ourselves in the process, I mean, that's true wealth, right?
I always feel like joy and like leaning into your joy and sinking into it and feeling it on every cell of your being. That is wealth. That is wealth because not everyone gets to experience that or allows themselves to, you know? Yeah. So powerful. So powerful. Okay. So what is your edge right now?
My edge right now. Well, when I shared with you before, I literally don't know how to like not, I don't know how to like not just be like, this is what, like, I'm like, my heart is just like,
When
um,
you're pregnant, you're just kind of like, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant, I'm
yeah.
pregnant.
So I think my edge, I feel really clear. There are some years it's not bad. There's some years where I'm like, we'll see what happens. And this year I felt really fucking clear and like where I'm focusing and where I'm going and what's important to me. And so I honestly feel really good there. I think my edge is just in life in general, deepening. Like this is the path of mastery, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, I'm working on this and then this and then this. It's like, no, I'm just doubling down on being in the not knowing. Like that's my edge, is just my purpose. Is just like getting good at this living thing, getting, quote, good at it, but being in the not
That's
knowing.
Mm, being not knowing. You do that so beautifully. You really do. And you said earlier that everyone is on their journey, right? Their success journey. And I know yours was pretty quantum, right? Like you've created a lot of wealth and expansion and impact in such a short period of time. And I'm just curious from your perspective, when you look at your clients and you look at people that are trying to quote make it in the online space and like have a really thriving, beautiful business, and it's not happening as fast as they want to, I believe that that's part of their journey of like, getting the lessons and deepening and like shame slaying and like going through their process to get to the other side of that. And you did a lot of that even before you started, which I think kind of took you like skyrocketed everything, Chill Rocketship, right? I'm curious what your perspective is on that for people.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes the block is thinking it's a block. Like the it's not happening is when I know it's not gonna happen. When
Ooh.
someone's like,
Ooh.
I'm doing it and like I can't see it yet, but I know it's happening is when I know it's gonna happen. But when someone comes to me with a story about how it's not happening, I'm like, well, there you go. Big sigh.
Mm, so good. So good. I feel
It's
like so many
like
people struggle with that.
yeah, it sucks. It's frustrating and funny, but it's like that's it. Like we watch movies and read books about people who still believed and still believe it was happening, even when there was opposing, not even without evidence, but opposing evidence that it's actually not happening. And they're the last person on earth with no reason left at all to believe that it's still happening and it's happening. And
Mm,
that's what it takes.
that is what it takes. What is your secret to holding wealth and financial success? How have you expanded your capacity to really hold what you hold?
I feel like we need a part two of this
I
podcast.
know. I think we do need a part two. I'm serious. Like,
It's been like, oh my God, I have to jump on this call in like a minute and a
okay,
half.
go ahead,
But
go
I'm
ahead, go
gonna
ahead.
say, okay, the key to embodying the wealth is again, letting the wealth amplify generosity. Honestly, letting money just be on top of like the actual wealth that we're talking about. And then honestly, what's helped me want to make more is knowing that I'm a great steward of wealth, like for myself. And there's so much we can say about money, but generosity is like a muscle, just like receiving that we think it's going to feel like, yay. And actually, you're like, whoa, like you've got to you got to get good. Just like getting good at receiving, actually allowing yourself to experience the benefits of receiving, kind of have to do that with giving as well, where you can actually feel like that feels so clean and so good. And the more generous I can be, the more I feel like, yes, more money. And it just gets easier.
It's so powerful. Okay, I know you have to go, so we're totally doing a part two. We're totally doing
Totally
part
doing
two.
part two. Thank you so much
Oh my
for having
gosh, you're
me.
amazing. Thank you. And I'm
Of
so
course.
excited for you.
And oh
And
my gosh, you guys, let us know you're listening to the podcast. My Instagram is at Shoshanna_Raven, Shoshanna with two N's. And I would love to hear what landed, what resonated. Ashley, you're amazing. Let's continue this conversation later. And I love you guys.
so much love.
Thank you.
Woo! We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram at Manifest with Ash. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get 'em.